Hi everyone and welcome back to this brand new video from Make, Print, Repeat. In today's video we'll be doing a 0 to Hero Fusion 360 course. This will be a video series, with this video being the first one. In each video we will do a brief introduction and then an actual product. To succeed in CAD you need three things: a clear idea, practice, and honestly just messing around in the CAD software. But now let's start with the basics. First of all, with every product you have to create a sketch. This is the base for everything you will do in CAD. And you can use a lot of tools to draw many different things. Remember that these are 2D sketches, which then will be extruded or revolved to make a 3D object. We can use a line command to make simple lines, or a circle command to make a center diameter circle or a 2-point circle. These are just different types of drawings that you can use depending on what you're actually doing. Then the most important tool probably is just the rectangle command. It might appear simple, but pretty much everything you will draw will have some sort of rectangles in them. Then to make some organic shapes, you can use the 3-point arc, which makes a simple radii, or then to make some more complex shape, you can use the spline tool. To make polygons, you can just use the polygon tool, and you can select the dimension and also the number of sides. Then another very useful tool is the slot tool. This tool allows you to make pretty much a rectangle with curved ends. This is especially useful for screws, since it allows you a bit of flexibility when inserting them. For every tool there are variations, like in this case a curved slot, and you can just look at them on the right side of your screen. Then the next most important thing is to dimension your sketches. This adds an actual value to what you're drawing. You can dimension the diameter of a circle, the length of a rectangle, the radii of a 3-point arc. There are many things. Then there are some other additional tools, like the offset tool, which allows you to offset the path. This is very useful and very powerful. Or then you can use the fillet tool to make rounded corners. In most cases you will see that constraints can be removed, and they are very important, but they are a bit harder, so we'll look into them in our next video. So now we can start with the design of the part, right? Not quite. First, let's do a sketch. A hand-drawn sketch is always a great place to start, since it allows you to create an idea, which obviously is very general, but this can prevent you from spending hours in CAD to make something that in the end does not work. Remember, it's always much faster to erase what you did with a pencil than restart in CAD. Now with the sketch done, we can actually start with designing this simple part. I'm starting with lines that are coming out of the origin, since this constrains the sketch to the origin plane. Remember that you can switch between the length of a line and the angle just by clicking tab. Also, you can move the dimensions that you make to allow your sketch to be a bit easier to see. Now with the main body of the phone holder done, we just need to include the shelf. This is where the phone will actually be in. For now we can just use some rough dimensions, and then we can always just change them later when we do a mock-up of the phone. With the sketch done, we can bring our 2D idea in 3D by doing a thin extrude. A thin extrude just uses a line to make a part, but consider that this part is always symmetric, and more importantly, it also has a constant thickness. In this case, we can choose a thickness of say 4 millimeters, since that's a good common ground between having something thin and something a bit thicker. Now, to avoid doing some fillets after, you can always just change the sketch and then update the extrude. To actually change a surface after it has been extruded, you can use the fillet tool. This pretty much just allows you to make a rounded corner. Then, to make it look a bit nicer, we can start a sketch on an origin plane, then project a line. The project tool just gets the line from the body and projects it to the sketch. This allows you to use that line as a reference for your sketch, which is extremely useful, especially for more complex parts. Also, remember that a sketch is closed if there is that light blue color on it. This means that it can be extruded. If it's not, you probably did not close properly a line, so just check it. Once we extruded it on one side, we can just use the mirror tool to mirror this extrude onto the other side. As before, to make it look a bit nicer, we can just add a couple of fillets. With this done, we have done a very good first version of the design. However, this would be extremely hard to print, so when making a design, always think how it will be produced. In this case, since it's 3D printed, it would be very nice to have one single surface that can lie on the bed. So let's change this. The good thing of having a parametric CAD software is that you can just go back in the sketches, update them, and everything after that sketch updates. Now that we have one single plane, we can just print it, laying it on one side. Now, to add a bit more detail, we can add a slot to allow for a charging cable to pass through. Then we can use a midpoint constraint to place the slot exactly in the middle of the sketch. And then with a simple extrude, it's done. Now, to make the mockup of the phone, it's highly suggested to make a different component, since this will be a different body, and therefore having a different component will make separate timelines for each of the bodies. This just allows very easy reference of how you made the body for complex assemblies. In this case, the phone is an A51, so we can just get the dimensions online and then make a very simple mockup, just a rectangle with the right dimensions. After all, we don't need anything fancy. In CAD, in general, less is more, since the more complex you make the sketches, the harder it will be for you to change them. Now, after having done the phone, we see that the dimensions are not quite right, but we can just go back to the sketch and change them. After a bit of messing around, we see that maybe 10 or 11 millimeters is the right size. Then, as before, we adjust some fillets to make it look a bit nicer, a bit more polished, and it's done. Then, to make it look nicer, we can click on A and bring up the appearance menu. This allows us to download textures and colors and just apply them to the bodies. With that done, let's just rename the body and then export it as a mesh. This is the preferred file type for 3D printing. But now let's thank this video sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay offers PCB manufacturing and CNC and 3D printing services. Their prices are competitive and they produce extremely high quality PCBs. Also, their production time is very fast, but I personally use them more for CNC machining since they have very good prices, but most importantly, a lot of materials to choose from. And this makes it easy to just produce complex parts that otherwise would be impossible for me to make. They also have a wide selection of materials for 3D printing and a wide selection of technologies. But now let's print our first part. We can just import it into a slicer, change some settings, check that everything looks good, and then we can print it. As you will soon learn, the satisfaction of designing your own parts and having them made is just something different. You can truly see your ideas turn into reality. Now we can see that this part is not perfect, but it looks very clean and honestly very nice. And most importantly, it does its job. It fits very snugly the phone and it holds it at a comfortable angle.